You know what line cracked me up that I never really put two and two together before? Was when he said, putting the South on the map was like Little Rock to Bangin'. Did anybody else see that documentary Bangin' in Little Rock?
Yeah!
I never thought of that until the other day.
I didn't either, until you just said it. I watched that documentary several times.
Bro, so did we. Like when that shit came out, because that was the first time I ever saw Stacking. Do you remember that?
Wow, yeah.
The dude was in the living room, one dude was freestyle, the other dude was in the back like this. I was like, that's so cool.
But people used to do that in the hood though. Yeah. I knew people that did that in my neighborhood though, yeah.
Then in hip hop, iconic album review, OutKast ATLiens. So I know in the last joint, the NWA one, I said that like my hip hop starts like at 96. But with OutKast, it started with Aquemini for me. So that was the first album that I listened to by OutKast. Because for some reason, and this was interesting because when I revisited this, I'm like, okay, when did I start listening to OutKast? It was in Miami. But they weren't big in South Florida.
Nope.
When I first...
Wait, for real?
Yeah. They were
like I remember listening to OutKast, Southern Playalistic, and I was like one of the only guys in my neighborhood listening to it.
Don't Florida have its own thing though going on?
Exactly.
Back then, that was still the time of Luke, wasn't it?
Time of Luke and just well we was on like the New Orleans kick around that time, like so we was on Luke, but we had
all that. Florida was definitely on its own wave, so you know I got put on to Coming Out by one of my homies. At first, at that time, I kind of listened to it and I just put OutKast on the back burner till I got into high school, and then that's kind of when I started getting into Bombs Over Baghdad, Stankonia. That's when like. For me, OutKast really blew up in Florida. So I didn't really go back to ATLiens until I moved here. And talking to Ron and Ken, like Ron and Ken was the guys who put me back. Like, hey man, you need to check this. Hey, you need to check that. Hey, you need to check this. And this was one of the albums that I had to go back and check because I didn't know. And then living here and listening to this album, I was like, holy shit.
It does change it.
It changes it. It changes it. Like there's other artists too that I felt like that, like T.I. Like when I moved here and I started listening to T.I., Jeezy, I got into OutKast heavy. I'm like, holy shit. It just gives it a whole different vibe because now you understand where these guys came from and just the vibe of the city and how they're able to express that through their music. And this album here, bro, like, oh my God, like once I really got into it, I was fucking up. And OutKast is just one of them groups. It doesn't matter what album you put on. These shits are fucking beginning to end. You don't have to skip a track. And that's exactly what ATLiens was. I wish that when this dropped that I was kind of such a hip hop head that I am now. I wish I was in Atlanta. I wish I can connect emotionally to that time here, because that would have been crazy. Because were any of you guys here in Atlanta?
I wasn't here. I didn't come until 3 years later.
I didn't come to 99.
So 99.
Yeah, but I used to just drive up here on the weekends.
You was here when this dropped?
Mm-hmm.
So how was Atlanta? Like how was?
Yeah, I was living in Conyers when this came out. I remember Conyers actually being kind of hyped up when this came out. But Conyers, only reason I know is I ran a small radio station there, and people would suggest OutKast songs. And I remember, I think I told y'all I wasn't really fucking with Southern rap, period.
Okay.
Even from Southern Playalistic. I didn't think it was bad, but I was just like, this isn't my sound. I didn't really like OutKast until this, because this didn't sound like Southern music. When I heard it, I was like, this kind of sounds like the West Coast shit that I like. It's just these motherfuckers have really deep accents. So when I heard this, I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool. But I can't tell you how Atlanta was, because I wasn't living in Atlanta proper.
And see, I was different, because I liked Southern Player, because that was more like what my ear was used to, to or whatever. So when I heard this, I was like, I don't know if I really like this direction that they're going in, because that's when he started wearing the turbans and stuff too, right?
They grew up. 2 years, been traveling the road.
So I was just like,
got weird. That was the
it was weird. Elevators was cool. I remember Elevators being kind of cool, but then I seen the video, I was like, oh, they on some other shit. I don't know about this. You know what I mean? Like, so it took me a minute to even, I didn't appreciate this album when it first came out.
But so you gotta think about a weird black kid living in Conyers, where everyone thought I was a weirdo. When you see shit like this, you see a guy that's in a popular, iconic Southern rap group, and he's a weirdo, it was like, oh,
okay.
I don't feel so weird. It didn't really help that much, but at the same time, it helped to see someone that was kind of like you on television, So yeah, I can't speak for Atlanta, but for me, I was like, oh, this is actually pretty interesting, especially like a song like "Wheels of Steel," which that is nothing like any other southern song.
Well, all of that scratching.
Yeah, like South wasn't on that.
No, they wasn't.
That was an East Coast thing.
Yeah.
It was so New Yorkish.
The documentary of Organized Noise put this album in.
Weird?
Yeah. That documentary put this in a whole nother perspective for me too, to see how they actually was in the mud, like in the Georgia clay, in the motherfucking dungeon. You know what I'm saying? Creating.
Making something like this.
Making something like this. Exactly.
Yeah.
On this, they were just pulling influences from other places.
Like where though?
I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
But I don't think it was just like from. But it wasn't the same kind of funk that was on Southern Playalistic.
Yeah, Southern Playalistic.
Like Southern Playalistic
Right,
was very
yeah,
funky,
yeah.
but this is a different kind of
It is,
funk.
yeah.
This is more of that like
It
bootsy maybe kind of
it
like
was-
that.
because it was
Funky,
dark,
a
it was
little
Aspen.
neo-soulish.
Yeah, it was
It was
for the
dark.
time.
But
yeah.
Neo Soldier was, it wasn't even a thing then.
yeah.
95 Source. I really think that really sparked the kind of motivation for this album. When Andre 3000 said the famous quote, "So I've got something to say."
At the awards.
At the awards, and like ever since then, I felt like that's when like OutKast really just started taking to another level. Because I remember when I first saw Elevators, I was like, damn, this shit's so sweet. And like Andre 3000 verses, to me that was when Andre. That's when you started separating like. Well, kind of separate like Andre from Big Boy. Not saying that Big Boy wasn't nice and nothing like that. Big Boy was still nice, but in Southern Playlist, their debut album, you can kind of see like, okay, they was both like neck and neck. But with ATLiens, I was like, shit, that's where you started hearing Andre 3000 just taking it to another level, man, with that album. And both of them started getting into producing more, because the first album, Organized Noise, produced the whole album.
See, I didn't know nothing about all that.
I didn't know that either.
Did 5 tracks
Yeah,
on it.
it did 5 tracks.
Really?
Yeah, but
I didn't know that.
they called themselves Earth Tone. That was their producing. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, I thought. Okay.
Then
So
they
I
did one of the
thought.
singles, right?
Yeah, ATLiens, the title track.
Really?
Whoa, they did that?
Yeah, they did
I
that.
didn't know that. I thought Earth Tone was just the name that they gave the entire crew.
No, that was-
because I thought Dungeon Family wasn't really a thing just yet, right?
That was like the start of it.
So I thought
Like-
the Tone thing was OutKast and Organized Noise together.
No, that was
No?
Andre 3000. Because he started
didn't know that.
he started getting into producing more on that album. So he was. Yeah, so they called themselves Earth Tone. I mean, unlike you, right? Yeah, I liked it from the beginning because it kind of gave me like at that time, like a Southern Tribe Called Quest vibe.
Yeah, if you like Tribe, yeah.
So
I can
yeah,
see
so
you
when
like,
when I first heard this, I'm like, oh shit, this on some Southern fucking Tribe Called Quest shit. So I was loving it. I'm like, I'm glad they taking this going a different
So
direction.
you didn't miss like the Southern Playlist, like you wasn't itching for that sound just a little bit, or maybe you didn't like Southern Playlists like that. Oh, okay, you did. Okay.
Just offended.
He like, wait, no, I just want to make what you saying. What is you saying around here?
No, okay, let me
Because think about-
so
go ahead.
I like Southern Playlistic.
Yeah.
And like you just said, the reason why I like ATL is because like I said, it gave me that Tribe Called Quest vibe. So I was like, holy shit.
Right.
Even though I love Southern Playlistic, I love this shit that
I
they're
got
giving me,
you.
now
I got
too.
you.
So it wasn't, I wasn't like you where I was like, give me a little bit of the, it was just like, oh, I love this shit.
I
Like,
wouldn't sound like that, B.
hey, look, you know I gotta be extra. Yeah. Like Mike said, it was something Southern that we've never heard before. Like, yes, we had UGK, we had 8-Ball. I know, 8-Ball, but this album was like
Ghetto Boys.
Yep, Ghetto. I was like, this is really different, man. This shit was crazy. So yeah, I really think that 95 Source Award sparked some shit with them, and they just haven't looked back since then.
Do you think that OutKast set the standard for the South?
What do you mean?
Standard as what?
Like,
Not with this album.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just in terms of lyrics, beats, no? Okay.
Even after this album came out,
Nobody
was doing this, and I think that's what made OutKast so good, because it was like people from the dirty South, like y'all could, not you, but could really fuck with this, and then people that didn't even like that style of shit could really fuck with it. That was what made this album so different. Is it didn't sound like Southern rap, but Southern cats still loved it.
And then another thing too with this album, I've noticed even with cats that was like from New York or like that was born and raised in New York, that was living in Detroit, they started liking OutKast. Like this was an album that they was like, oh okay, I think because during the early mid '90s, New York was always like, country.
Very New York and
It was
area.
very, and I used to hate that about New York dudes. They was like, just you know, Southern da. But with that album, New York dudes was just like, yo, man, I fuck
They were like that with everything, though.
Yeah.
West Coast.
If it wasn't New
West
York,
Coast, yeah. If it wasn't New York, yeah.
Nah.
But like really the South, they were really like, hell no.
All coast dismissed the South.
Yeah, country bumpkins,
Yep.
slow.
But with that album, from what I remember, that really had people was like, yo, the South really do got something to say, as Andre 3000 said, the source word. So,
But you kind of needed to have something to say, though. They had something to say.
Yeah.
And I think what Mike was kind of alluding to before then, they had music that was big regionally.
Right.
I got
They
it.
didn't have a lot to say. I think for me, man, I remember I was more or less with Rod in terms of like my first experience listening to this. And I came home from college, bought it, and I would come home from college and I would just sit down when I buy new music, just sit down, put on headphones,
That's what we did back then.
and just listen to the music. And I'll never forget putting this on and I'm like, what the fuck am I listening to? And that's in a slightly negative way because I'm like, Rod, where the fuck is this Southern playlistic shit? Like, that's the shit I wanted. Like, what the hell is this shit?
Right.
And then you go all the way through it, and then when it got to 13,
Growing Old.
and that was so heavy and
Man.
mellow. And I pulled up the headphones, I'm like, what the fuck just happened?
Extraterrestrial.
Yeah, I'm like, what is going on? What happened to OutKast? It was so different from their first album, and if you think about it, extremely risky to completely change your sound from something that worked.
Sound and look. I thought it was risky for. I'm like, this dude is crazy though. What the hell wrong with him?
Yep, but it was so interesting and different and weird that we didn't have internet, we didn't have like all the mistakes dropping. If you spend $20 on an album or CD or you're gonna play the fuck out of that shit
Until you like it.
until you like it. Yeah, we were just talking about that. So I was like, all right, well, I know I like them. They're rhyming, but the sound, and I just kept playing it, and the more I played it, the more and more I was like, oh yeah, I'm rocking with this. Like there was even a story that they said that the lead single, Elevators, like that shit was on the fucking radio, and the label was like,
The label wasn't fucking with it.
yeah, they won't fuck with this shit. It was like, nah, we know it's gonna work. And that shit was on the radio, and I'll never forget this line. That line stuck out to me so much when he was like, we're kind of the same if you don't move your feet. You know, we're
cheek to cheek, cheek to cheek.
Yeah, he said we're basically the same. That
the line though, but yeah.
Yeah, but it was like when I heard that, I was like, damn, that is so real because. You take the risk. You put the whole verse is real, but it kind of puts you in the mindset of an artist or a rapper, and they putting out this art and they create. But if you don't like it, or if anybody like it, then what? Yeah. And they went completely different from what they were doing. So that line even applied more because if this shit flopped, and we all know about the sophomore slump, right?
Right.
That would have been it for OutKast.
Yeah.
But it didn't.
This was almost like 1996's version of like experimental rap. Because if you put this on, like
as far as mainstream, hell,
the way they were rapping and the beats that they were rapping over, like that's some shit that I hear somebody doing now. Had this not come out, that's some shit I hear somebody now coming out with, and people being like, "Damn, that's crazy. That's some other world shit."
Yeah.
And at the time, it's like, I don't think any of us really processed that. But I went back and listened to this just as a refresher before this, and I was just like, damn, this really sounds like some indie experimental rap, but just done with some dudes with Southern drawl.
And I was gonna ask that too when we came here. Do you think it was ahead of its time?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that makes it iconic, right? Because it's ahead of its time.
Because nobody was really doing, not that I can remember, except for like Main Source, nobody was really doing like spacey themed rap. And like when you get to like, well, that's the only thing I can think of besides
Breaking Adam when they did
Breaking Adams.
Yeah,
but like when you get to a song like Extraterrestrial, which is my favorite song.
Are you ready?
That one in 13 Growing Old. That's my two favorites. They're my two favorites right there.
When you put on ET and you really listen to that beat, and then you listen to them rap. Like when we listen to experimental rap now, like that's some shit now that we'd be like, damn, how is he rapping over that?
Yes.
But these guys, And when you talk about, I was waiting till you're done. When you're talking about Andre and Big Boy, I've always said that I think that they were still kind of neck and neck. I think the only difference is they were rapping about different shit. Like Big Boy was still on that, I want to make jokes, I'm still a player.
I'm colder than the polar bear's
toenail. Yeah, but Andre was on some other shit. Like Andre was talking about like his mom doing cocaine while he was in the womb, and he came out and said, I don't even do it, but it's in my veins.
Yeah.
Like his verses were already starting to get coded and more detailed. Big Boy was
put your
just
hands in the atmosphere. He didn't say put your hands in the air. No,
exactly.
Put your hands in the atmosphere.
Right.
Like just little stuff like that.
Wordplay. Damn.
But Big Boy was still, I still think on this album that they were still neck and neck. They were just rapping about different shit. But Dre was starting to get to that point where he was like, I'm more of a poet, I'm more of an artist. Big Boy is just like, I'm just a dope rapper.
Yeah.
So I think this is the album. That's what makes it iconic to me, because that's when they started to split. Not talent-wise, just
more on Criminal. Even the
Criminal was already
it was like bam.
Yeah,
because even on Babylon, he was talking. I think he was talking about some girl and hunching.
Yep.
Which was
hunching our clothes on until we got excited.
Yeah, which was a southern thing. And
they call it horny because it's devilish.
Yeah. He got another line that I heard.
I was like, Andre, Jesus Christ.
We didn't have any discussions about this being like a classic. At least I didn't, or anything like that. We just listened to it and just fucking enjoyed it.
Yeah,
that word didn't exist yet.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, not the way it's used now. Like we would get, be in the car with our boys. Hey man, put that OutKast on, and we would just put it on, and we would just ride to it and just chill. Like it was such a slightly innocent time when it came to listen.
Plus for me, it was so much other great stuff that came out that year too. Of course. So ATLiens, I was just like, fuck, like damn, another fucking album I gotta like listen to that's so great, because at that time we already had Reasonable Doubt. I already had
it was so much.
It was written,
96.
it was written in whatchamacallit came out a month later, DEHH, like it was just so much stuff that was coming out. UGK, like it was just so much stuff.
ATLiens is iconic to me because OutKast was definitely ahead of their time, and OutKast, now we see them as one of the, if not the greatest hip hop groups ever. I think Mike said it best, like we didn't understand the importance of it until way later, but it's interesting that it was a non-traditional Southern sounding group to put the South on the map. So just that in itself is definitely iconic. The fact that they're so unique makes it iconic. The fact that these guys, you saw them grow separately but still grow together. Like this album, like again, like there's no skippable tracks on the OutKast project. Throw that shit on, hit play, turn the bass up, turn the music up, and just chill, ride on your headphones, whatever, man. Like that's why it's iconic.
ATLiens is iconic because I believe that this album is really made people really pay attention to the South, and really start to take them seriously as MCs, lyrical MCs, especially Andre 3000 in particular. Just the sound of the album was very different, and at the time, like Ken mentioned, we just didn't know how much this was going to impact just the culture of hip hop, not just hip hop, but even Southern hip hop as well.
Yeah, I think this album is iconic because, when looking back, it was rebellious. It was actually mature. It was them taking their experiences and putting out on a record. I think it was risky, and it was groundbreaking, and it was at the forefront of the Southern movement, where the South was able to have its own identity and able to kind of just really become fixated on that and say we don't need the approval of anybody else. We didn't know the impact that this album, plus the Source Awards, plus everything else they released afterwards would have on, hip hop, as a whole. Like the artists and the people that came out of this because they listened to OutKast, and the amount of pride that people had that, being in the South, we finally had one of our own. That's fucking dope.
ATLiens is iconic for one simple reason. It put the South on the map, and that's really it. This made people look at the South differently. This is coming from somebody that is not traditionally from the South. This comes from somebody that really hated Southern music. And this comes from somebody who, all of my friends hated Southern music. We were really only listening to West Coast stuff. Even after I moved to the South, I was still only listening to West Coast stuff. This changed all that. This really made us think, okay, there are lyricists in the South. There is good hip hop in the South. And that's really the main reason. This changed people's minds about the South. And that, it doesn't really need anything more than that. That's it.